Bullies slapped a disabled girl in a diner an hour later. Bikers walked in the rain, hammered the diner's glass windows that night, washing neon lights across the puddled street. Inside, laughter echoed, not the warm kind, but the cruel, cutting laughter of people who thought pain was funny. A young girl, her left leg bound in a brace, sat frozen in her seat as a tall man slapped her milkshake off the table. No one moved. No one spoke. The girl's trembling hand reached for her crutches as the bullies sneered, recording her humiliation on their phones. The waitress turned away, pretending to clean the counter. An hour later, the bell over the door chimed again. This time, the air shifted. Boots. Leather. The sound of engines still humming outside. 5 bikers walked in, wet from the rain, their faces hidden behind dark shades and heavier stories. And that night, inside that small-town diner, something unforgettable happened. The girl's name was Emily Carter, 16, with hair like honey and eyes that tried too hard not to cry. She'd been born with a partial leg disability after a childhood accident. Her father's old truck had been hit by a drunk driver when she was just 6. He didn't survive. Since then, Emily lived with her mother, Sandra, who worked double shifts at the same diner every night to keep the lights on. The regulars knew Emily. She'd often sit quietly in the corner booth, doing homework while waiting for her mom to finish work. She was sweet, polite, always smiling, but that night, everything changed. A group of 4 local teenagers barged into the diner, spoiled sons of men who thought money excused cruelty. They'd seen Emily before. She was an easy target. They mocked her limp, her old shoes, her crutch. She tried to ignore them. But when she didn't react, their insults grew sharper. Then one of them, a tall boy with a smirk that could rot wood, knocked her milkshake to the floor. When she gasped, he laughed and said, "Oops. Maybe you should have caught it with your good leg." The slap came next. Sharp. Loud. A single sound that silenced the diner. Her mother saw it from the counter, but before she could rush forward, the boys swaggered out, laughing, recording, proud of their cruelty. Sandra fell to her knees beside Emily, holding her as she cried, whispering that it would be okay. But inside, something broke that night, not just for Emily, but for everyone who stayed silent. Outside, thunder rolled. An hour later, the rain had turned into a storm. The diner had gone quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights and the soft sniffles of a broken girl. That's when the bell above the door rang again. 5 men walked in, drenched, leather vests soaked, the patch on their backs reading, Iron Brotherhood MC. They were rough-looking, bearded, tattooed, heavy boots leaving wet prints on the floor, but their eyes were calm. The leader, a tall man in his 40s named Jack Hawk Lawson, glanced around the room with the kind of silence that made everyone stop breathing for a second. They took a booth in the corner, ordered coffee, and listened as Sandra tried to cheer her daughter up. Emily's cheek was still red. Hawk noticed. After a moment, he said quietly to the waitress, "What happened to the girl?" The waitress hesitated. "Just some kids, being stupid." But Hawk didn't look convinced. He leaned back, eyes dark under the diner's flickering light. "Stupid doesn't leave bruises," he said. A few minutes later, one of his men, Bear, a mountain of muscle with a kind face, walked outside and saw a car full of the bullies across the street, still laughing and watching their video of Emily on their phone. He came back inside, jaw tight. "Boss," he said, "you might want to see this." Hawk stood up slowly. Emily looked up from her booth, her small face pale and afraid. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked quietly. He knelt down, meeting her eyes. "No, sweetheart. You did nothing wrong. But I think it's time someone reminded those boys how to be men." The storm outside raged harder as Hawk and his crew stepped into the rain. The bullies were still there, leaning against their car, phones out, pretending to be tough. They laughed when they saw the bikers. "Look at these old dudes," one said. "What, you here for bingo night?" Bear cracked his knuckles. Hawk raised a hand, stopping him. "No violence," he said. "They're kids. But they're gonna learn something tonight." He approached slowly, his boots splashing through puddles. "That girl you hurt, she ever do anything to you?" The smirking boy hesitated. "Just a joke, man. Relax." Hawk's expression didn't change. "You think hitting a disabled kid is a joke?" The rain poured harder. Behind Hawk, the other bikers stood silent, like shadows, waiting. He leaned closer. "Let me tell you something. Every man in my club's got scars. You can't see 'em all, but they're there. We don't care about legs or looks, we care about hearts. And you? You just showed you don't have one. He pulled something from his pocket, a wet, folded piece of paper. That girl's dad, he said softly, was one of us. He died saving a family in a crash 12 years ago. That's why she walks with a brace. You just mocked the daughter of a hero. The boys froze. Their laughter died instantly. One of them dropped his phone into the mud. You're gonna clean up what you broke, Hawk said. You're gonna apologize to her, and you're gonna make this right. Because if you don't, you'll see us again. And something in his voice made them believe him. Minutes later, drenched and ashamed, the boys walked back into the diner. Emily looked up, startled, as they approached her booth. Their leader, now trembling, set a new milkshake in front of her. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For everything. She stared at him, unsure, then looked at Hawk, who gave a small nod. Slowly, she smiled, a shy, forgiving smile that somehow hurt more than anger ever could. The boys left in silence. Hawk and his crew finished their coffee, ready to hit the road again. But before leaving, Hawk placed a small silver pin, a biker wing, on Emily's table. Your dad used to wear one just like this, he said. He'd be proud of you. Tears filled her eyes. You knew my dad. Hawk smiled faintly. We all did. And then they were gone, engines roaring into the night, leaving behind nothing but the fading echo of thunder and the soft glow of hope. Weeks later, the story spread across the small town. The video the bullies had filmed was deleted, replaced by another, one showing their apology and the bikers' quiet act of justice. The diner became known as the place of the Iron Brotherhood. And Emily Carter, once the quiet girl in the corner, walked a little taller every day, her silver crutch gleaming in the sun. Because that night, 5 strangers reminded the world that kindness doesn't always whisper. Sometimes, it rides in on 2 wheels and stands up when no one else will.